For 7 seasons, the Brittas Empire convinced us that no matter how bad things became, Gordon Brittas would somehow keep going. Sadly, real life didn't work out that way for everyone. One star fought crippling anxiety, while others faced illness, divorce, and loss that changed them forever. Now, in 2026, we're looking back at what really happened to them. And some of these stories are truly unbelievable. Chris Berry as Gordon Brittas. Chris Berry was born on March 28, 1960, in Hanover, West Germany, where his father was serving with the British Army. At 31 years old, he took on the role of Gordon Brittas, the disastrously overconfident leisure center manager whose well-meaning decisions constantly created chaos in the Brittas Empire, 1991. His frantic physical comedy and impeccable timing turned Brittas into one of British television's most unforgettable sitcom characters. Success brought its own burdens. While starring in both The Brittas Empire and Red Dwarf as Arnold Rimmer, Barry became known for pushing himself relentlessly to perfect every performance. The pressure of maintaining 2 iconic television roles contributed to periods of burnout and anxiety during the 1990s, forcing him to step back from some projects. At the same time, he was coping with the collapse of his first marriage to Monica, which ended in 1990, just as the Brittas Empire was beginning. Despite the personal turmoil, he continued building a successful career, later appearing as Hillary in both Lara Croft Tomb Raider films alongside Angelina Jolie. Today, Chris Berry is 66 years old, married to his second wife Alex since 1997, and remains one of Britain's most beloved comedy actors. Although he has faced age-related joint problems from years of physical comedy and stunt work, his estimated net worth is believed to be $5 million. Michael Burns as Colin Weatherby. Michael Burns was born on May 4, 1952, in Liverpool, England. At 39 years old, he played Colin Weatherby, the accident-prone maintenance worker whose endless injuries, bandages, and bizarre mishaps became one of the running jokes of the Brittas Empire, 1991. Colin's innocence and constant bad luck made him a fan favorite, and the role became the defining performance of Burns's career. Coming from a working-class background, he spent years fighting for opportunities in Britain's fiercely competitive theater scene before finally earning national recognition. After the series ended in 1997, Burns found himself repeatedly offered only eccentric or comic side characters because audiences and casting directors struggled to separate him from Colin's image. The frustration of being typecast forced him to focus largely on regional theater productions and teaching rather than major television roles. His absence from public view sparked occasional rumors about his health and career, but friends have consistently stated that he remains well. Today, Michael Burns is 74 years old and lives a quiet life in England, remembered fondly by fans as the lovable and endlessly unlucky Colin Weatherby. Tim Marriott as Gavin Featherly. Tim Marriott was born in 1958 in England. At 33 years old, he played Gavin Featherly, the competent, level-headed recreation center employee who often found himself cleaning up Gordon Brittas's endless disasters in the Brittas Empire, 1991. He provided a crucial balance to the show's chaos and became a familiar face. After the series ended, Marriott faced a very different challenge. Concerned by the instability of the entertainment industry, he stepped away from the spotlight and reinvented himself as an educator, eventually becoming head of drama and later director of arts at Eastbourne College. The transition was far from easy, as he reportedly spent years working 14 to 16-hour days managing students, productions, and administrative responsibilities while sacrificing much of his personal time. After nearly 17 years in education, Marriott returned to the stage and rebuilt his creative career from the ground up. He founded his own theater company and earned praise for productions such as Mengele and Jack's Ashes. Today, at 68 years old, Tim Marriott continues writing, producing, and performing theater. proving that his most rewarding chapter may have come long after the Brittas Empire ended. Russell Porter as Tim Whistler. Russell Porter was born on September 30th, 1964 in England. At 26 years old, he played Tim Whistler, the hot-tempered recreation center employee whose relationship with Gavin became one of the most groundbreaking storylines in the Brittas Empire, 1991. At a time when LGBTQ+ characters were still relatively uncommon on mainstream British television, the role placed Porter under intense scrutiny. Those concerns were not entirely unfounded. After the series ended, Porter struggled to secure major long-term television roles and found himself increasingly drawn toward London's theatre scene, where he discovered greater artistic freedom. Although he appeared in series such as The Bill and Casualty, he never achieved the same level of television visibility again. Rather than chase fame, Porter chose a private life away from the spotlight, rarely granting interviews and keeping his personal relationships out of public discussion. In 2014, he married Adam Lilly, and the couple have remained together ever since. Today, at 61 years old, Porter remains remembered not only for Tim Whistler, but also for his appearances in EastEnders, Titmus Regained, and other British television dramas that showcased his quiet but enduring talent. Harriet Thorpe as Carol Parkinson. Harriet Thorpe was born on June 8, 1957, in Hampstead, London, England. At 34 years old, she played Carol Parkinson, the emotionally overwhelmed receptionist and struggling mother who famously kept her baby hidden in a desk drawer, in The Brittas Empire, 1991. Her combination of frantic comedy and vulnerability made Carol one of the series' most unforgettable characters. Although she grew up in a creative household with novelist Edward Thorpe and actress-writer Gillian Freeman, life was far from glamorous. Watching her parents navigate the financial uncertainty of artistic careers taught her early that success in entertainment was never guaranteed, and she spent years fighting to separate from her family's reputation. At the same time, her personal life became equally challenging after a painful divorce, left her raising 2 daughters as a single mother while juggling theater, television, and West End commitments. The financial and emotional strain of balancing motherhood and a demanding acting career became one of the toughest periods of her life. Yet she persevered, building an impressive career with major roles in Absolutely Fabulous, Wicked, Mamma Mia, and later EastEnders in 2023. Today, Harriet Thorpe is 69 years old and remains one of Britain's most respected stage and television performers, admired for her resilience, longevity, and ability to reinvent herself across multiple generations of entertainment. Pippa Haywood as Helen Brittas. Pippa Haywood was born on May 6, 1961, in Hatfield, Hertfordshire, England. At 30 years old, she played Helen Brittas, the heavily medicated, emotionally exhausted wife of Gordon Brittas, whose life was constantly thrown into chaos by her husband's disastrous decisions, in The Brittas Empire, 1991. Helen's mixture of frustration, anxiety, and dark comedy became one of the show's defining elements. To portray the character's emotional instability convincingly, Haywood invested enormous psychological energy into the role, later admitting that the intensity of the performance sometimes left her mentally drained long after filming ended. Her persistence eventually paid off when she transitioned into acclaimed, dramatic performances, earning praise for roles in Green Wing, Scott and Bailey, Bodyguard, and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Away from acting, she built a stable family life with her husband Malcolm Blasioli, whom she married in 1984. But balancing motherhood, marriage, and a demanding career brought its own challenges, including a difficult battle with postnatal depression. Today, at 65 years old, Pippa Haywood continues to enjoy a respected career free from controversy, recognized as one of Britain's most versatile character actresses. Jill Greenacre as Linda Perkins. Jill Greenacre was born on June 3, 1965, in Norfolk, England. At 25 years old, she played Linda Perkins, the kind-hearted and patient recreation center employee who often helped calm the endless crises surrounding Gordon Brittas in the Brittas Empire, 1991. Linda's warmth and compassion made her one of the few stabilizing influences in the series. After the success of the Brittas Empire, Greenacre struggled to find another role with the same visibility and impact. The pressure to chase fame and compete for increasingly scarce television opportunities reportedly left her stressed and disillusioned with the industry's constant demands. Rather than continue that battle, she deliberately chose a quieter path, focusing on independent theater, short film projects, and arts education programs that encouraged creativity within local communities. Her gradual disappearance from mainstream television sparked occasional rumors about financial troubles and personal setbacks, but none were ever substantiated. Today, at 61 years old, Jill Greenacre remains respected for choosing artistic fulfillment over celebrity and for building a career on her own terms. Judy Flynn as Julie Porter. Judy Flynn was born in 1963 in Blackpool, Lancashire, England. At 28 years old, she joined the Brittas Empire in 1992 as Julie Porter, the sharp-tongued, sarcastic secretary whose dry humor and quick wit made her one of the show's most entertaining supporting characters. However, Flynn had no shortcuts into the acting profession. To support herself while pursuing training and auditions in London, she worked a series of low-paying jobs, including waitressing and cleaning, often struggling to cover basic living expenses while chasing a career that offered no guarantees. Even after gaining recognition, Flynn faced a different challenge: typecasting. Instead of allowing those frustrations to define her, she steadily expanded her resume through acclaimed productions such as The House of Elliot, Dinner Ladies, Still Open All Hours, and Doctors. Today, at 63 years old, Judy Flynn is admired as one of Britain's most dependable character actresses, with a career built on consistency, professionalism, and quiet determination. Julia St. John as Laura Lansing. Julia St. John was born in 1956 in London, England. At 35 years old, she played Laura Lansing, the intelligent and composed deputy manager who constantly tried to prevent Gordon Brittas's disastrous decisions from spiraling out of control, in The Brittas Empire, 1991. As the voice of reason at the Whitbury Leisure Centre, Laura quickly became one of the show's most important characters. When St. John unexpectedly left the series in 1994 after 36 episodes, rumors of behind-the-scenes conflicts circulated widely. In reality, the relentless filming schedule and her desire to avoid becoming permanently identified with a single role led her to walk away while the show was still at the height of its popularity. The decision proved beneficial for her career. Free from the demands of the sitcom, St. John expanded her work through productions such as A Touch of Frost, Harry Enfield and Chums, and The Grand, while also building a successful reputation as a voice actress and audiobook narrator. Today, at 70 years old, Julia St. John remains respected for choosing artistic freedom over fame and continues to make occasional appearances in theater, voice work, and literary recording projects. Stephen Churchett as Counselor Jack Drugget. Stephen Churchett was born on April 10, 1947, in London, England. At 43 years old, he played Counselor Jack Drugget, the persistent local government official who repeatedly attempted to discipline, control, or dismiss Gordon Brittas, usually with little success, in The Brittas Empire, 1991. His authoritative presence made Drugget a memorable recurring adversary. Beyond acting, Churchett was also an accomplished television writer, earning recognition for his work on acclaimed British dramas such as Lewis, The Bill, and Kavanaugh QC. The workload eventually contributed to years of chronic stress and high blood pressure. Nevertheless, he continued working successfully as both a writer and actor, appearing in series such as EastEnders, A Touch of Frost, and Monarch of the Glen. Colleagues frequently described him as generous, intelligent, and supportive of younger performers entering the industry. After a brief illness, Stephen Churchett passed away on January 11, 2022, at the age of 74, leaving behind a respected legacy both on screen and behind the scenes as a writer. Anushka Menzies, as Penny Bidmead. Anushka Menzies was born in 1971 in England. At 29 years old, she played Penny Bidmead, a city council representative tasked with monitoring and resolving the endless problems surrounding the Whitbury Leisure Centre in the Brittas Empire. Intelligent, professional, and often forced to deal with the fallout from Gordon Brittas's decisions, Penny added another layer of authority to the series. By the late 1990s, repeated casting disappointments and the constant pressure placed on female performers took a serious toll on her confidence and mental well-being. Rather than continue fighting an industry that left her increasingly unhappy, she chose to step away from television and return to the more creative environment of independent theater. From that point forward, she deliberately withdrew from public attention, avoiding interviews, publicity campaigns, and celebrity culture altogether. Today, at 55 years old, Anushka Menzies lives a private life away from the spotlight and remains one of the most elusive former cast members of the Brittas Empire. Andre Bernard as Angie Burton. Andre Bernard was born on December 29, 1966, in London, England. At 24 years old, she played Angie Burton, the attractive and self-assured temporary secretary, whose presence added both charm and tension to the early episodes of the Brittas Empire, 1991. Bernard faced the challenge of working alongside experienced comedy veterans while mastering the precise timing required for British sitcom performance. Despite her natural talent, she soon encountered a frustrating obstacle that followed her throughout much of her career. Because of her striking appearance, Bernard was frequently offered glamorous but underdeveloped roles, forcing her to work harder to prove she was more than just a pretty face. Determined to expand her range, she built a successful career through productions such as Hollyoaks, Holby City, and The Bill, while also establishing herself in theater and voice acting. Today, at 59 years old, she continues to work on selected creative projects and acting workshops, respected as a versatile performer who successfully overcame years of typecasting. Jo Kendall as Mrs. Dapp. Jo Kendall was born on February 17, 1940, in Lincolnshire, England. At 53 years old, she played Mrs. Dapp, a refined and respectable visitor whose expectations of a pleasant day quickly collided with the chaos surrounding Gordon Brittas in the Brittas Empire. Although her appearance was brief, Kendall was already a highly respected figure in British comedy. When she entered the entertainment industry in the 1960s, she became the only female regular performer on the influential BBC radio series I'm Sorry, I'll Read That Again, and worked alongside future stars such as John Cleese. That was why Kendall devoted most of her life to her profession rather than building a traditional family. She never married and had no children, choosing instead to focus on acting, writing, and comedy. In later years, she lived quietly in a converted tower in rural Suffolk, far from the spotlight that had once defined her career. Sadly, on January 29, 2022, Jo Kendall passed away at the age of 81 in a residential care home. She left behind a remarkable legacy as one of the pioneering women who helped open the door for future generations of female comedians in British entertainment. Roy Alon as Mr. Appleby. Roy Alon was born on April 24, 1942, in Israel. At 48 years old, he appeared as Mr. Appleby, a visitor and customer at the Whitbury Leisure Centre, who became caught up in the endless chaos created by Gordon Brittas in the Brittas Empire, 1991. While his role on the sitcom was small, Allen's real fame came far away from the cameras. He was one of the most accomplished stunt performers in entertainment history and held a Guinness World Record for working on more than 1,000 film and television productions. His career placed him in some of the biggest franchises ever made, including James Bond, Indiana Jones, Superman, Star Wars, and Doctor Who. Yet that success came at a brutal cost. Decades of performing dangerous falls, explosions, vehicle crashes, and high-risk action sequences left him with countless injuries, including broken bones, torn muscles, severe burns, and lasting internal damage. The dangers of his profession extended beyond the film set and into his family life. Because Elon spent much of his career risking his life for entertainment, his wife and loved ones lived with constant anxiety whenever he reported to work. The emotional strain created a silent burden that followed the family for decades. Despite the physical punishment and pressure, Elon continued working and earned enormous respect throughout the industry as one of Britain's greatest stuntmen. On February 1, 2006, he died at the age of 63 after suffering a stroke. His passing marked the end of an extraordinary career built on courage, sacrifice, and a willingness to take risks that few others would dare attempt. Richard Brain as Horatio. Richard Brain was born in 1956 in England. At 37 years old, he played Horatio, an eccentric and often bewildered visitor whose unusual behavior added to the confusion and comedy surrounding Gordon Brittas and the Whitbury Leisure Centre in the Brittas Empire. Despite his talent, he spent much of his career facing a challenge familiar to many character actors. Audiences often recognized his face, but rarely knew his name. Even so, he quietly built an impressive resume with memorable roles such as Augustus Gussie Fink Nottle in Jeeves and Wooster, appearances in Only Fools and Horses, EastEnders, Father Brown, and film roles in Calendar Girls, Finding Neverland, and Bridget Jones. The Edge of Reason. Beyond acting, he also wrote and performed the one-man stage play Being There with Peter Sellers and later directed productions in London's theatre scene. Although he worked consistently across television, film, and theater, Brain rarely enjoyed the financial rewards or public recognition given to leading stars. There were periods when he struggled with the insecurity that comes from being a respected supporting actor rather than a household name. Instead of chasing celebrity status, he remained committed to his craft and gradually earned a reputation as one of Britain's most reliable performers. Today, at 70 years old, Richard Brain continues to be remembered by fans of British television as a versatile actor whose contributions extended far beyond a single role. Sebastian Coe as himself. Sebastian Coe was born on September 29, 1956, in Chiswick, London, England. When he appeared as himself in the Brittas Empire, he was 35 years old and was already one of Britain's most celebrated athletes. Coe became a sporting legend after winning 4 Olympic medals, including gold in the 1,500 meters at both the 1980 and 1984 Olympic Games. During his remarkable running career, he set 9 outdoor and 3 indoor world records, and his 800-meter world record stood for 16 years. Yet the pressure of competing at the highest level came with enormous physical and mental demands. Years of relentless training, injuries, and the expectation of carrying British athletics on his shoulders created constant pressure throughout his career. After retiring from competition, Coe successfully reinvented himself, first as a Member of Parliament for Falmouth and Camborne from 1992 to 1997, and later as one of the most influential figures in international sport. His second career proved almost as demanding as his first. Coe played a central role in securing the London 2012 Olympic Games and later chaired the London Organizing Committee, overseeing one of the largest sporting events in British history. The responsibility brought years of scrutiny, political pressure, and intense public expectations, but the success of the Games elevated him to global prominence. He later became president of the International Association of Athletics Federations, now World Athletics, and continued shaping the future of track and field worldwide. Today, at 69 years old, Lord Coe remains one of the most influential figures in modern sports history, honored with an MBE, OBE, knighthood, and membership in the Order of the Companions of Honor for his extraordinary contributions to athletics and the Olympic movement. So, after revisiting the cast of the Brittas Empire then and now in 2026, from career struggles and personal heartbreak to remarkable comebacks and lasting legacies, their journeys were every bit as unforgettable as the chaos at Whitbury Leisure Centre. Which story surprised you the most? Let us know in the comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your favorite cast member in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.